Welcome. This video will show you how to view the information in your transaction history file and to report upon that. And this is your transaction history file that's found for every account in your system. I'm going to start by going to the AR Management button and clicking on that. And then number 3, Display Alter Accounts. Now I can access this page by going into the A menu, the General, typing in my account number, and then pressing my K key on my keyboard. I can just as easily click on the transaction history button over here on the right. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to type in my account number that I want to look at. Now the information that you're seeing on the screen from left to right is the date that the ticket was posted, the reference number of that invoice or return or credit or payment, the transaction code, the clerk code, that's who did the transaction, the PO number if the customer has one and or requires one, and then the gross amount of the invoice. Not just a quick kind of overview of how this screen works. Whenever you have a customer who has a house charge, you will probably see a listing of transactions that are I, M, whatever other charges that you're making for their account or returns, without an offsetting transaction. And what this means is that this is a transaction that is currently waiting to be posted on their statement or waiting for a payment, or it wasn't paid immediately at point of sale. So if you go back months and months, you'll see the same kind of transactions. But those were tickets that were taken as a house charge, whether it was a sale or a credit. And the reason that we know that is because if you look right above that, you'll see a transaction that there's 2 lines of reference number that are identical. And then you have a transaction code that's an I and a transaction code that's a $sign. That means that this was an invoice that was paid with some sort of cash. And by cash, I mean cash, check, credit card, and so on. So if you look at a cash account, you're going to see these all the time. An I is an invoice, and then the offset for that is a $sign. A transaction code M will have an offset of an O, so you should see those regularly on your cash accounts. But that's kind of how you can tell what's going on here and why it may seem a little strange for you to have 2 reference numbers with the same identical reference number with a different transaction code. One is the sale and then one is the payment. The buttons at the bottom of the screen will allow me to scroll around or view the invoice. So prior and next goes to the prior account number and the next account number. Prior page goes back in this customer's history. So you'll notice that this guy does mostly house charge transactions because I have an I and then immediately afterwards I have an M. So those were house charge transactions. And then I have a P, that's a payment. So F3 and F4 allows you to scroll through this customer's pages of history. And remember, transaction history goes back to the first transaction in this customer's history. Now, if you've been with SBC for 20 years, that may not be the case because we may have cleared out some old transactions. But for the most part, unless you have a reason to pull data out of here, you can leave it here forever. F5 will allow me to just enter a new account number, and F5 allows me to start over fresh in any of our data windows. So if you happen to be in inventory, or you're in your AR listing, or you're in your supplier file, if you press the F5, it'll pop you up and allow you to enter a new account number instead of you pressing your escape key. I'm going to type in my account number again. F6 goes to the last page. This is a fairly new button that we've added, but if you have a customer where you have lots and lots of history, or you are in part tracking by account and you want to get to the very first page of their information, this F6 key has been added, and that will take you to the very last page of a report or of a display screen. F8 allows you to scan, so you can search for specific items. Now this is awesome when you're dealing with a cash customer and you're looking for a specific ticket from a specific day. Cash tickets or cash accounts, their transaction history might be enormous. So this is very helpful for you to search for a specific day, or you can at least get close and then use your F3 and F4 keys to search around. F9 will allow you to alter this information. Now, depending on your security, you'll have to enter a password to do this, and we don't typically allow people to just come in and make adjustments here. Probably the most common adjustment would be to enter a PO number after the fact. I'm going to press the escape key to get out of here. Control P simply prints this screen. So if you have a line of information or if you have a couple days of tickets that a customer wants to see, instead of printing for them a statement, you could just print this page. Update will save any adjustments that you've made. The archive button will allow me to go down and take a look at any of these tickets. So I go down to the one I want, and notice the buttons at the bottom of my screen changed, so I can click on my archive button, and that's going to show me this ticket. I can email it to the customer, I can print it to paper, or I can simply use it for reference and then press my escape key to go back. I'm going to press the home key so my cursor moves back down to the very bottom of the page and my buttons come back up. So escape obviously kicks me out. Help gives me any field letters if I wanted to know what the field letters were for this particular table here. And then my help on my far right is the help that we're used to, the shift ? Help. The first page tells me what my valid function keys do. If I click on more help, it's going to give me my listing of valid pages, and then a third more help is going to give me my codes that go across the top of my screen here. I'm going to press the home key and it's going to return me back to the main page. Okay, I want to report this information on paper or in an email. So where I'm in F3K, menu path F3K right now, I'm going to escape out one more time, so I'm in the F management menu, and I'm going to go into F5K to report this information. So I'm going to start by going to report to date. I'm going to type in my clerk code, and if I had any saved library jobs, they would have shown in my upper left-hand corner of my screen. I don't have any, so this is what I'm seeing here. So I can choose the date range of information that I want to look at. I'm going to put this back to 2016-0101. Now I'm going to leave my stop date as a 0 because that means right now. I can always enter a stop date as well if I wanted to. And if I wanted to just see today's, I could have left both the start date and the stop date as a 0. The start number is looking for an account number. So I'm going to type in my account number and press my enter key, and it's going to assume that I only want to look at one. I can always look at more by either pressing my F2 key or my F1 key, or just typing in the account number itself. Now, this next area is asking me what transaction types that I want to pull up on my report. If you're not sure what transaction types that you can use, you're going to click on the help, and it's going to give you a listing of all of the transaction codes that we allow in SBC. Now, you may not even use all of these transaction codes. So if you have a specific series of transaction codes that you want to look at, maybe returns, you can click on those. A credit memo is a return. I'm going to uncheck the all transactions. I'm going to click on a credit memo, a core return, a defective return, and maybe I have something else like a buyout return or something that I want to choose from here. In this case, I'm just going to choose the all transactions because I don't have much going on here. And then I'm going to click on the save button, and that's going to display for me the transaction code of an asterisk, which means look for all transaction code types. If I choose, and I'm going to go back into the help, if I unselect this and I choose invoice and credit memo, when you hit the save button, you'll come back and you'll see those without a comma, just listed like this. So you can either type these in. I want an I and an M and a C and an R. I can leave my asterisk there and show everything, or I can use the help. And then my field mask and my field.value are giving me the opportunity to filter the information that I'm going to see. So maybe I want to see only those tickets by a specific clerk, or maybe I want to see only those invoices that exceed a certain dollar amount. I'm going to press the home key to return to my main menu, and then I'm in a report screen, just like the rest of the report screens that we're used to. If you're not sure on how to use this, there is a video on how to use the report generator. So if I click from the top down, my report options, this is just what the date is on my paper if I want to change it, and do I want to run this through the background. I would perhaps want to run this through the background either because I'm running it on a cash account and there's tons of information to report upon, or I want to schedule this. Otherwise, I'm just going to leave it as a no. I'm going to click on my home to return. My print options, do I want to print this to my screen? Do I want to print it to paper? Do I want to save it as a PDF or a text? Or do I want to email it to someone? Now, I wouldn't necessarily choose none because you're not doing anything to the file, but you can choose whichever one is appropriate. I'm going to go back to screen, and obviously if I had chosen printer, it would let me adjust the printer number. If I had chosen email, it would let me adjust the email address. Do I want to see totals, yes or no? Totals are going to be a listing of the total dollars that this customer has purchased from you, but it depends on what your filter criteria is. If you've said only look at your I transactions, then this is going to be a total dollar amount for those transactions, but that's not really legitimate because you do have returns and payments against those types of things. We suggest that you use, if you're going to run a report and you're looking for total dollar amounts and things, that you use some of the other pages that we have in the AR management. So I'm going to say no, I don't want to see totals only, and I'm going to hit the home key to return. The selection options pulls me back to this same page that I started with, so I have no adjustments to make here. And then the updating allows me to update that page. You may or may not have this button depending on your security, and really there's no reason for me to update anything, so I'm going to leave that one alone. Now, this is a very helpful window for me to use if I have a customer who wants to get a weekly statement, but I don't want to actually run statements. I just want to run a listing for the customer of what he did this week. So this is a great thing to set up. You can schedule the information, and you can have it be emailed if you have an email server right to the customer every Sunday night, every Wednesday, whatever schedule that you'd like to send that to him. So at the bottom, I can escape to get out. I can enter to begin. I can just print this screen if I want to. I can change my printer number. I can F5 recall job. There's a separate video on how to use that F5 recall job function. Or I can F10 save the parameters. So I'm going to save the parameters. I'm going to click on F10, and I'm going to type in 109. That was my account number. And I'm going to type in 109 invoices. I can call this anything I want. And remember, if you're in an office where there are a lot of people saving jobs, you might want to throw in your initials just so if someone gets a little bit antsy and wants to clean out all of the saved reports, they don't remove any that are yours. I'm going to press the enter key. I don't have a security level, or I don't need a security level here, so I'm going to press the enter key. And then I don't need a password either. None of this information is really confidential. I'm going to press my enter key one more time. And then I'm going to click on the Enter to Begin button in the lower left corner, and this is going to show me a listing of all of the transactions for this account. Now remember, the transaction code I asked for to look at all transactions, so it's going to display everything. And if you look here, you can see an I and then a $sign. So this transaction here, number 370, is a transaction and then a cash payment right at point of sale. So there may be a scenario where you'd need to explain to the customer what exactly that they're seeing. My buttons here will let me scroll through the list, and then remember that F6 key, that takes me to the very last page if I wanted to see a listing of the transaction code totals and then the total net for the customer. I'm going to press the escape key. Now, one thing about our reports, if you print it to your screen just to figure out whether this is the information that you wanted, you will want to go in and run that again to print to paper. There is no button there to print immediately to paper, which is one of the reasons it's a smart thing for you to save the report when you're messing around with it. You can always go in and adjust it really easily instead of having to start over. And then if you want to eventually delete it, you can just delete that saved library job, and you don't have to keep it in your list if you don't choose to. So number 2, sorted report, is just about exactly the same as the report that you just saw. The only difference is it allows you to sort your options. So if I am looking at the same account from the top down, do I have a title? Other than that, my date is the same as the field in the other report, and then do I want to run it in the background, yes or no? going to click my home to return. Do I want to print it to a screen, or do I want to print it to paper? Do I want to print it, or do I want to send it to an email? Now, the nice thing about this is that you can set up this screen any way that you want, so you're not stuck to the layout that they had in that other page. If I click on my help, it's going to give me a list of the transaction, of the field letters that I can use in this particular report. Now, you'll notice in the file area, THF is your transaction history file. These are the fields that are coming off of your transaction history page. However, there are other fields available that are coming off of your AR record. So if perhaps you want to include an address or a telephone number in this report, you can do that because we're collecting information not only from your transaction history file, but also from other areas of the system. So this will show you which fields are legitimate regardless of the file that we're pulling them from. So I'm going to come down here and I'm going to say I'm going to look for account number and ref number and date. I want to look for grand total. Nope, my grand total is not GTN, so I'm going to go to my shift help and look for my grand total. My gross dollar amount is GR $. So I'm going to hit my home key, type in GR $, and that'll give me the total dollars. I'm also going to include my transaction code. And you can put these fields in any order that you want. There's no requirement. I'm going to press home to get to my main screen. And then in the selection options, I'm going to pick my account again. Now notice that it's not including a date range at the top like it did on the last page, but I can absolutely come down here and say where the date is greater than 2015-12/31, which will give me all of my 2016 invoices. So I can use my filters to do that type of filtering. Home. Do I have any calculations? This is, do I want to total anything at the bottom of the report? I perhaps want to total my grand total, oops, GR $, by 1. When I say extend by 1, it's simply going to multiply itself by the column to make sure that I get a total at the bottom of the page of that column of information. I'm going to press my home key, and now I'm going to come over here to my sort options, and it's going to allow me to sort this, and I'm going to say I want to sort it by transaction code. Now keep in mind, I didn't filter any transaction codes out of my list. So this is going to give me a listing of invoices and then some payments and then some credits. So this may not necessarily be the best report that you would want to run for a customer. I just want to show you how these sort fields work. And then do I have a maximum number of records to print? Perhaps I wanted to show only the most expensive invoices or invoices that exceed $100. And I want to show the customer the kind of transactions that he's purchasing from me or the kind of money he's spending with me. I don't want to print out 900 pieces of paper. I just want to print out maybe 2. So here I can say the maximum number of records that I want to print are 50, 80, whatever you want to choose, and that will limit the number of records that print out on the paper, hence limiting the amount of paper that you're printing. I'm going to click on my home to return key, and now I'm going to just hit the enter key to run this to my screen. And it's going to take a second to sort the information because remember I have a sort function in there. So this is going to show me all of my $ transaction codes first, then all of my I's, those are sales, all of my M's come next, and then my P's, and then I have a grand total at the bottom, and the grand total dollar amount, although this is the totals of credits and payments and other things, is $47.48. So I would want to make sure that I know what that number actually represents. I'm going to press the escape key to get out of here. And so when you come to report information for customers, you can always report or give them a statement at the end of any time period. You can run your statements once a week, you can run them once a month, you can run them as needed if the customer walks in and wants a statement. But this will give them a listing of their transactions. It doesn't look like a statement, it simply looks like a report. There are totals at the bottom if you want to give them a total value of what they're spending with you, but this is another option than giving them a statement every time, just to keep the customer up to date as to either what he owes you for or what his current activity is. If you have any questions on any of this, please call SBC at 800-829-4722 or send us an email at sbctraining@autolog.com. Thank you for your time.